How's it going, anime lovers? My name is David, and I am finally back after being gone for a while now. So if you guys want to know what I've been up to, well, as you guys can see, I have been busy trying to build a new set for this channel, and also I've just been trying to catch up with a lot of anime, and one of those anime that you all may be familiar with is something that I really want to talk about today. It is something that may be relevant in the near future, and that anime is called Cowboy Bebop. One of the major reasons why I decided to watch this anime now is because, as many of you probably already know, there is going to be a live action series coming out soon on Netflix for it, and I really just wanted to catch up on the anime and see what was all the hype about, because I personally never grew up watching Cowboy Bebop, and I figured this was the perfect time to do it. And after finishing watching the anime, I've got to say that I was very impressed with what I saw, and that may not be surprising to some of you who have already seen the anime, but to me, that is quite a feat, because I feel like a lot of time when anime lovers are recommending an anime a lot to me, or just in general, I'm just naturally skeptical about how good it is until I actually see it. And Cowboy Bebop went beyond my expectations, and I am totally glad that I got to saw it. So today, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the things that I really liked about Cowboy Bebop, and also try to convince some of you guys out there who were probably in the same position as me before I watched the anime to give it a chance, because I really think Cowboy Bebop is an anime that you should not skip. So with that said, here are 2 things that impressed me the most about Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop became a great anime by barely being an anime. As some of you may already know, I never watched Cowboy Bebop back in its heyday, since I was stuck with free TV and my only options for watching anime were whatever was being offered on shows like the Fox Box and 4Kids TV. So since I had missed out on this experience, I wanted to watch Cowboy Bebop in the same way as most people did, and that's why I chose to watch the English dub, even though I'm mostly a sub guy when it comes to watching anime nowadays. However, I have to say that watching Cowboy Bebop in English was probably the right move regardless of my preferences, not only because the English voice acting was done so well, but because it just fits with the way Cowboy Bebop was being presented. What I mean is that it was quite noticeable how influential Western culture was on this anime, and it made watching Cowboy Bebop a very unique experience for me. Even though Cowboy Bebop is a very popular recommendation for people who want to get into anime, I don't remember anything specific about why it was so good, or even anyone telling me how it managed to still hold up today. So I wanted to quickly highlight some of the things that I noticed that I think contributed to why I think so many people still hold it in such a high regard, and why you should watch it too if you haven't yet. First of all, it amazes me that this type of anime aired during a time in the United States when shonen anime was very popular, because almost everything about Cowboy Bebop is far from a traditional anime. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Cowboy Bebop didn't even bat an eye at any common anime tropes and cliches, and that it carved its own path with how it was being presented. Although during the time this anime aired on television, there weren't as many options for anime to watch as we have today, I don't think it was an accident that Western audiences would get attached to this anime very quickly, since it was flavored in a way that Western audiences were already familiar with and could very easily enjoy. The most obvious way that I noticed Cowboy Bebop catering to Western audiences was the music that was composed for the anime, and I also think that it's a huge part of the reason why this anime is finally remembered by so many people. For instance, the opening for Cowboy Bebop featured a jazz song called Tank, composed by Yoko Kanno, that quite honestly was my first indication that this anime would be something special. I just love the lively horns, peppy percussion, and groovy bass, which created a very catchy and playful tune. As for the visual side of this opening, I just love seeing all the creativity on display, such as having the silhouettes of the main characters performing cool poses while the color of the background was constantly revolving, and the moments where the main characters were shooting at the screen were also visually striking and reminded me a lot of the James Bond gun barrel sequences in which he would shoot at the screen in every movie. All of these elements made for an opening that just felt very retro yet cool and classy, which created a great first impression, and hearing the tune over and over again before each new episode began just never got old to me. The presence of westernized music wasn't only contained during the opening, but the anime in general just had an amazing soundtrack that was filled with various musical genres that you normally wouldn't associate with a traditional anime. There was one episode, for example, called Heavy Metal Queen, in which a trucker named VT was so famous for playing heavy metal music that she got nicknamed for it, and that episode featured a lot of heavy metal songs. And there was also an episode called Sympathy for the Devil, in which a child prodigy would play the harmonica for a club, and songs inspired by the blues were featured throughout that episode. Although there are plenty more examples I could list off of Cowboy Bebop dipping its toes into other pools of music, my point is that the diversification of its soundtrack and combining specific sounds into thematically similar episodes is one of the biggest reasons why I think Cowboy Bebop has such staying power in conversations about timeless anime today. Another reason why I think Western audiences were so captivated by this anime that I was already hinting at earlier was all thanks to Cowboy Bebop's familiar yet intriguing overall setting, themes, and subtle references. Cowboy Bebop took place in the near future, and while there is advanced technology that you would associate with any common sci-fi show, such as spaceships and cyborgs, it doesn't go too crazy with the made-up gadgets, which I think made the setting feel more grounded compared to most other anime that took place in the future. Cowboy Bebop also had many episodes with particular themes and references that a Western audience would already be familiar with, such as one episode called Toys in the Attic, which was obviously an homage to the famous movie Alien, or the episode called Cowboy Funk, which parodied spaghetti Western films. There are so many references throughout Cowboy Bebop that to list them all could be a whole video on its own, but to think that this anime took so much inspiration from other pieces of media and incorporated those ideas into this world, it's no wonder that people still talk about how amazing Cowboy Bebop is and why a Western audience would be infatuated with this anime. Cowboy Bebop became a great anime by using the simplest plot ever. A common practice that I see in a lot of anime that I watch is that the plot is laid out very early on so that an audience can have something to immediately invest in and make people want to see how the characters will go about resolving the plot and accomplishing their goals. But what was so fascinating to me about Cowboy Bebop was that it didn't do that at all. During the first episode, there were no proper introductions to Spike or Jet, nor were there any declarations of them having some grand goal like wanting to become the best bounty hunters in the galaxy. It felt as though we as the audience were simply dropped into this world and we became flies on the wall while the Bebop crew were doing their thing and catching a fugitive. And I noticed that this was pretty much the format for every episode, besides some episodes where we learned some more about one of the main characters in their past. When I noticed this distinct way of storytelling, it was interesting because I had a hard time at first grasping why I should be watching this anime, since it was not made clear to me what I should be caring about. But as I watched more and more episodes, this unfulfilled desire made me seek out something else other than the plot to keep me watching. And I think that this is one of the reasons why Cowboy Bebop was so special. Not having a familiar plot to grasp onto made me pay even more attention to everything else, and I ended up finding many things that I liked about Cowboy Bebop after all, such as its setting and the stories of minor characters that were introduced in every new episode. Speaking of which, something that I don't think is talked about enough when it comes to conversations about why Cowboy Bebop was so unique was that instead of unraveling a plot that was set up from the beginning like most anime that I've seen beforehand, Cowboy Bebop unraveled its setting and its characters instead through a simple story format, which I think worked out to its benefit. Cowboy Bebop aired during a time in the United States when people couldn't binge watch a whole show in one sitting, and they had no choice but to wait for each new episode to come out. So this unique way of storytelling made Cowboy Bebop an incredibly easy watch, and why I think so many people choose to come back and watch the show over and over again. Not to mention that the quality of the writing for these little stories in this world were superb. Some of my favorite episodes from this anime were the ones where I learned more about what made this setting unique, such as a session called Waltz for Venus. I love this episode so much because it was interesting to learn about Venus sickness, which basically made one of the minor characters featured in this episode blind, and seeing how far a brother was willing to go to cure his sister of this condition was so memorable because of how tragically it ended. Another episode that featured both deeper explorations of the setting and its main characters that I quite enjoyed was a session called Hard Luck Women, in which Faye, Valentine, and Ed, who were two of the main characters from this anime, came back to their home planet of Earth in order to find out more about their past and also figure out where they belonged in this world. Seeing Ed reunite with her father in her orphanage after a couple of years had passed since she went on an adventure with the Bebop crew, and seeing Faye get extremely introspective when she finally found her home after having no clue where she came from for the entire anime up until that point was also quite a somber moment that signaled the beginning of the end for the Bebop crew, as half of them went their separate ways. After all is said and done, I believe there is something that I could point out in every single episode of Cowboy Bebop that I loved, and although the slow pace of the anime did test my patience at times, I think sitting back and just enjoying the ride of wherever this anime wanted to take me, even if I didn't know how this anime was going to end, was what truly made me appreciate the special place this anime still holds in the hearts of many people in the anime community today. With that said, my only regrets from watching this anime was that I didn't make this experience last longer, as I had to binge watch it very quickly to get this video out. And I don't think experiencing Cowboy Bebop this way was the right move given the unconventional style of its storytelling. So if you're somebody who hasn't seen Cowboy Bebop yet, then I recommend taking your time with this anime and just enjoying the ride to the fullest. And the best part about Cowboy Bebop is that you don't have to think too hard about what happened in the last episode if you haven't watched it in a while. What I think made Cowboy Bebop so beloved was because it used a very simple plot of bounty hunters catching wanted fugitives as a way to explore its familiar yet fascinating setting through the separate mini-stories that are featured in each new episode. For me, Cowboy Bebop started as an anime that I was quite skeptical about watching, but now I can finally say that I get why this anime is recommended so often and why it's considered one of the greats by so many people. Alright guys, that is going to be it for this video, but if you guys enjoyed it, then please remember to leave a like on this video, and also please don't forget to leave a comment below letting me know some of your favorite moments from Cowboy Bebop. There's going to be a lot more content coming out in the next couple of weeks because of the Cowboy Bebop live action series, so if you guys don't want to miss out on those videos and you want to stay updated on this channel, then please don't forget to subscribe and also click that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. On that note, thank you anime lovers for watching this video. My name is David, and I will see you all in the next review.